Hi, nice to see you again. It's Graham Martin. I'm the recruitment guy from orchardjobs.com. In the last video blog I was talking about interview tips, preparation, and what I forgot to say, so I'm going to say it now because you might be watching this in series, is that if you go for an interview, do ask permission to take notes. Remember, you've got your hardback book with you, but ask permission. In over 20 years I've never had an employer say, I'd rather you don't take notes. But it's just polite to ask, do you mind if I take notes? Anyway, let's just get rid of this. So with no more ado, let's talk about something which drives me nuts. There's been so much written about this which is rubbish. There's so much stuff on the internet which is of little or no value at all. But it's about body language. Now, I've only got a few minutes to give you my top tips. And I'm going to be going from kind of the top down, if you like, just so I can remember it easily, because there's a lot to talk about. But what I would suggest you do is look online and get a couple of books. I don't work for Amazon, but this is by a guy called Alan Pease, L-A-L-L-A-N Pease, P-E-A-S-E. And he's written a couple of books. One's called Body Language, the other one's called Talk Language. And for my money, these are some of the best practical books about body language that I've ever read. And as you can see, I've got a lot of books and I've read most of them. So invest in some good stuff. So let's just think about, when we're going into an interview, yes, we know that we've got to come across a certain way and we've got to have a dialogue, but isn't it true that people are watching not just so much what we say and how we respond, but our body? What does our body do for us? What does it tell us? What does it tell the interviewer? Does it perhaps say that we are making stuff up, that we're lying? Now, if you study NLP, you can get into the whole kind of eye movement thing. Does it mean if they look up to one way or look up to the other way, they're telling a lie or they're having to remember it? If you're an interviewer, if you're an employer, you might want to do some work in that area. It's a science, it's about left brain, right brain thinking, and it's worth doing some work on. But today, for you and for me, somebody going out for an interview, let's get on to some basics. The first thing we talked about on the previous video was about the handshake. And it's about body language, isn't it? But don't try and break the interviewer's hand. It's not a competition. If you're sitting down, as you probably will be, don't slouch. I've seen people, mature people in management positions, coming into an interview and they've sat back and they've slouched. It looks really bad. Other people I've seen with both their elbows on the desk leaning forward. Now, it might be appropriate to lean forward on occasion just to show that you're interested, and indeed this stuff should really become second nature. But don't overdo it, but please don't sprawl all over the desk. It's not as if we're in the fourth year at school doing double chemistry, looking out the window. This interview effectively may or may not secure your future career. So please think about the way that you come across. So don't slouch, sit upright, keep your arms off the table, use a decent pad for taking notes, ask questions, and think about the way you cross your arms. Now, I tend to, when I'm sitting down talking to people, I will tend to cross my arms. But it's not because I'm not interested. It's actually because I've got a slightly bad back, and when I move my arms forward, it pulls my back forward and it relieves some of the tension. So if you're being interviewed and somebody's doing that, it doesn't mean they're not engaged. It just might mean that it's more comfortable for them. But, and this is what you need to remember, their perception may well be, if they don't know about your bad back or they've not read the books, that actually folding your arms could imply you're not that interested. So I would suggest that for the most part, unless there's a physical or a medical reason why you do that, keep your arms open. And in fact, you can use your hands to express your opinions and your views and your enthusiasm. If you look at our Mediterranean friends, they tend to use their arms a lot more, and we know when they're passionate. In the UK, we're a little bit more reserved, although when you look at fans at a football match or a pop concert, you wouldn't believe that. But let's use our hands in the appropriate manner. Let's also think a little bit about crossing your legs. Now, for some people, crossing their legs is natural. But when you cross your legs when you're sitting in a chair, it kind of pushes you back. You probably have to move back from the desk a little bit. And to do that, you might seem to be overly confident. So I'd be inclined not to cross your legs. Unless, again, for any reason, I've met guys that maybe they're into certain sports and they're cyclists or the rugby players, and for them crossing the legs is more comfortable with the not crossing legs. So just think a little bit about that. Also, please, please, please don't chew gum. I've had people come to interview for me, even mature people in their 40s and 50s, chewing gum. Now, does that mean that they're any less capable or less able of doing a specific job? Of course not. But to me, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm middle-aged, but for me chewing gum is a lack of respect. So please, if you're going to chew gum, do it before. Get rid of it in the car park. Remember, with CCTV, don't chuck it on the floor. Just wrap it up in a wrapper, leave it in your car, put it in your pocket. And just think a little bit about from the body language point of view, and this is a bit of a side, but it's worth talking about. If you do smoke, please make sure you haven't smoked heavily before you go to the interview, because it's probably going to be clinging onto your clothes and it's probably going to make your hair smell. And even if you've had a lot of mints beforehand, you know, the interviewer might well smell that. Now, does that in any way affect how you can do the job? Probably not. But you've got to remember, you're dealing with somebody who's a human being and maybe having a prejudice about people that smoke. Maybe he was a heavy smoker himself and doesn't like to be reminded of the pleasure of smoking when he smells nicotine. So try to make sure that there's no evidence of smell on your body. But body language is a big subject, and just be aware that when you see somebody scratching their ear or their nose or their eyebrow, guess what? It doesn't actually mean that they're lying or they're making stuff up. It might mean that, guess what? They've got an itchy ear. So if you're interviewing, think about that. But if you're an interviewee, just consider that is how they may view you. So just be watching a little bit for this kind of stuff. In fact, the more I do it, the more I want to do it. So just be aware of that. So body language, a short video, but a huge subject. I suggest you go out and buy some books by LMPs. You can probably get him on YouTube, certainly on Amazon. And just think a little bit about the way you behave in an interview. Think about the handshake, think about eye contact, think about your posture. And just while I'm thinking about it, I'm getting pretty warm here under the studio lights, but just think about, you know, am I getting a bit warm? So if you're going to take your jacket off, use some deodorant. I would suggest that if you do feel warm in an interview, say to the interviewer, do you mind if I take my jacket off? Again, I've never in more than 20 years heard of an employer saying, I'd rather you didn't. So just think a little bit about that. In the next video, we're going to be talking about the preparation that you can do for the questions that you are going to be asked. And believe you me, you will be asked a whole bunch of questions. So I'm going to try and give you some hot tips on what can make a difference. So that's it for now. It's Graham Martin. I'm the recruitment guy from orchardjobs.com, saying goodbye.